This course is a companion to the book The Project Brain: Evolving Project Managers, available on Amazon. If you find today's session valuable, the book goes deeper on every framework you are about to learn, including the 3-tier document system, the janitor protocol, synthetic stakeholder simulations, and the full blueprint for an artificial intelligence-powered project management office you can run from your own desktop. You can find it by searching for The Project Brain by Self-Made PM on Amazon, or by visiting selfmadepm.com. Now let us begin the course. 1. Welcome to this 3-hour professional development session on project estimation. There is a cruel paradox at the heart of estimation. You are asked to predict the future most accurately at the point when you have the least information. Early in a project, uncertainty is at its peak, yet that is precisely when sponsors demand a budget and a deadline. This course gives you the tools to narrow that uncertainty and produce forecasts that hold up under scrutiny. This course is eligible for 3 self-reported professional development units, abbreviated PDU, with the Project Management Institute, abbreviated PMI, under the online or digital media category. It maps to the ways of working edge of the PMI talent triangle. Let us begin. 2. By the end of this session, you will be able to do 3 things. First, you will be able to select and apply the right estimation technique for the situation you are in from the 6 proven methods we will cover, including expert judgment, analogous, parametric, bottom-up, 3-point, and Delphi. Second, you will be able to combine techniques and use explicit contingency and management reserves to produce defensible forecasts. Third, you will be able to communicate estimates as ranges with confidence levels, hold the line under pressure, and avoid the optimism bias that causes most estimation failure. 3. Here is how we will spend our 3 hours together. Part 1 covers why estimation is hard and the biases that distort it. Part 2 walks through expert judgment, analogous estimation, and parametric estimation. Part 3 covers bottom-up estimation, 3-point estimation, and the PERT formula. Part 4 covers the Delphi technique and the combination of methods. Part 5 covers contingency and management reserves, communicating uncertainty to stakeholders, and handling the pressure conversation. At the end, I will walk you through exactly how to claim your PDUs. 4. Estimation fails most often not because the math is wrong, but because human biases distort the inputs and because the estimate is treated as a commitment rather than a forecast. 5. Every estimate at the start of a project lives inside what is called the cone of uncertainty. Early in the project, the range of possible outcomes is wide, often plus or minus 100%. As the project progresses and more information becomes available, the cone narrows. The practical implication is that any early estimate is necessarily imprecise, and presenting an early estimate as a single, precise number is fundamentally misleading. A professional estimate at project start is a range, not a point, and the width of the range tells stakeholders something important about how much they should trust it. 6. The most dangerous bias in estimation is optimism. We consistently underestimate how long work will take and how much it will cost because we anchor on the best case, ignore risks, and want to deliver numbers stakeholders want to hear. Optimism bias is not stupidity. It is the combined effect of several well-documented psychological patterns, including planning fallacy, confirmation bias, and social pressure to be helpful. Counteracting it requires structured methods, not willpower. Every technique in this course is partly a mechanism for reducing optimism bias below the level an individual estimator can achieve alone. 7. Once a number is spoken out loud, it becomes an anchor. Even if you revise it later, the original number influences every subsequent discussion. This is why early estimates so often become accidental commitments. The sponsor hears 6 months, repeats it to leadership, and it becomes the planning baseline, regardless of what caveats you attached. The defense is to never speak a single number without explicit range and confidence attached, and to repeat the caveats consistently until they stick. This feels tedious. It is the only reliable way to prevent a casual early estimate from becoming a locked commitment. 8. The first 3 techniques are your early phase workhorses. They produce usable estimates before detailed scope is available. 9. Expert judgment is the most widely used estimation technique and also the most abused. At its best, it leverages the deep experience of people who have done similar work before. At its worst, it is one person guessing in a vacuum. To use it well, consult multiple experts independently, document their assumptions, and reconcile differences through discussion. A single expert produces an opinion. 3 experts consulted separately produce a range that reveals where there is agreement and where there is genuine uncertainty. Expert judgment works best as a companion to more structured methods, not as a standalone approach. A good default is to use expert judgment to cross-check the output of your other methods, not as the primary technique. 10. Analogous estimation uses historical data from similar past projects to estimate the current one. If your last website redesign took 14 weeks and cost $120,000, and the current project is roughly the same size and complexity, you have a strong starting point. The key is defining similar carefully. Adjust for differences in team size, technology, complexity, and organizational context. Analogous estimation is fast and is especially useful in early phases when detailed scope is not yet available. Its accuracy depends entirely on the quality of your historical data. Organizations that invest in capturing actuals from past projects can analogous estimate new projects in an afternoon, with confidence intervals that reflect real variance across completed work. 11. Parametric estimation uses statistical relationships between historical data and project variables. If historical data shows that one floor of office build-out costs $85 per square foot and takes 3 days per 1,000 square feet, you can estimate a 10,000 square foot project with reasonable precision. The technique requires a reliable unit rate and a measurable parameter. It works exceptionally well for repetitive work such as construction, manufacturing, and content production, where the relationship between input and output is well established. For novel work, parametric estimation is less reliable because the unit rates may not exist yet. Parametric estimation also scales beautifully. Once the unit rate is validated, producing an estimate for a 10,000 square foot project is no harder than for a 1,000 square foot project. 12. Once more detail is available, you can shift to techniques that produce sharper numbers at the cost of more effort. 13. Bottom-up estimation breaks the project into its smallest components, estimates each one individually, and aggregates the results. It is the most accurate technique, but also the most time-consuming. You need a detailed work breakdown structure before you can apply it. Each work package is estimated by the person or team who will execute it, which increases both accuracy and buy-in. The risk is that bottom-up estimation captures task-level effort, but may miss integration work, management overhead, and the work that falls between defined packages. Always add a factor for these hidden costs when rolling up your estimate, typically 10 to 20% depending on the project's complexity and integration burden. 14. Three-point estimation acknowledges uncertainty explicitly by asking for three values per task: the optimistic estimate, which is the best case, the most likely estimate, and the pessimistic estimate, which is the worst case. The three values together describe a range rather than a single number, which is a more honest representation of reality. Asking estimators for three values also forces them to think about risk explicitly rather than defaulting to a single optimistic number. The conversation around each task becomes richer because estimators have to name what could go wrong and what could go right. 15. The Program Evaluation and Review Technique, abbreviated PERT, combines the three-point estimates into a single weighted average. The PERT formula is the optimistic estimate plus 4 times the most likely estimate plus the pessimistic estimate, all divided by 6. This produces a weighted average that gives most weight to the most likely value while accounting for both tails of the distribution. The formula also yields a standard deviation, which is the pessimistic minus the optimistic divided by 6. The standard deviation lets you calculate confidence intervals around the expected value. When a sponsor asks how confident you are, you can answer with data. There is an 85% probability that the project will complete between 14 and 18 weeks. That answer builds far more credibility than a single point guess. 16. At the project level, PERT, expected values and standard deviations from individual work packages combine via standard statistical rules. Expected values add linearly. Standard deviations combine through the square root of the sum of squares, assuming the work packages are reasonably independent. This is slightly more complex math, but a spreadsheet handles it easily. The result is a project-level expected duration and a project-level uncertainty range that are both grounded in work package-level estimates. This roll-up is one of the most powerful outputs of a disciplined estimation practice. 17. The most accurate estimates come from multiple techniques applied together, compared and reconciled. 18. The Delphi technique gathers estimates from multiple experts anonymously, shares the aggregated results, and repeats the process until the group converges on a range. Anonymity is the key feature. It eliminates anchoring bias, groupthink, and the tendency to defer to the most senior person in the room. Each round, participants see the distribution of estimates and the reasoning behind outliers, then revise their own estimates privately. 2 or 3 rounds typically produce a consensus more accurate than any individual estimate. Delphi is especially valuable for novel projects where no historical data exists and where a room full of experts would otherwise anchor on whoever speaks first. 19. Use analogous estimation for early phase rough orders of magnitude when historical data exists. Use parametric estimation when you have a reliable unit rate and a measurable parameter. Use bottom-up estimation once you have a detailed work breakdown structure and time to execute the detail. Use three-point estimation whenever you want to capture uncertainty explicitly, which is nearly always. Use Delphi when you need a group consensus on novel work without anchoring bias. Use expert judgment as a cross-check alongside any of the above, rarely as the primary method. 20. The most accurate estimates come from combining two or more techniques and comparing the outputs. Analogous and parametric often agree, which is encouraging. When they disagree significantly, the disagreement itself is the signal. It means either the historical analog is not actually analogous or the unit rate is not applicable. Similarly, bottom-up combined with three-point estimation produces a range-based project estimate that is both detailed and uncertainty-aware. Investing the time to run two techniques is almost always worth it because the comparison catches errors that either technique alone would miss. 21. Even the best estimate is wrong. The question is how wrong and how you communicate the uncertainty. 22. Contingency reserves cover known risks, meaning the things you identified in your risk register that might happen. A common approach is to add 10 to 15% contingency for known risks on a well-scoped project, with larger amounts for projects where the risk register is heavier. Always present contingency as a separate line item, not hidden inside task estimates, so stakeholders understand what they are paying for. The principle is that contingency is budget earmarked for specific identified risks, drawn down only when those risks materialize, and released back if the risks do not. 23. Management reserves cover unknown risks, meaning the things you could not have predicted. A common approach is 5 to 10% management reserve on top of contingency. Management reserves typically sit outside the project manager's direct control and are released by the sponsor when warranted. They exist because on any project of meaningful complexity, something will happen that was not on the risk register, and pretending otherwise sets the project up for a difficult conversation months in. Explicit management reserves are an act of professional honesty. 24. The cardinal rule of estimation is to never hide padding inside task estimates. Hidden padding erodes trust when it is discovered, and it gets stripped out when leadership pressures you to reduce the estimate. Transparent reserves are defensible. Hidden padding is not. The same budget, presented as $100,000 with no visible reserve, is much more fragile under scrutiny than $80,000 base plus $15,000 contingency plus $5,000 management reserve. The transparent version survives the executive review. The hidden version gets cut and then blows through the remaining budget 4 months in. 25. The hardest part of estimation is not the math, it is the conversation. Sponsors want a single number. You want to give a range. The solution is to present estimates as ranges with confidence levels and let the sponsor choose their comfort level. I am 50% confident we can deliver in 12 weeks and 90% confident we can deliver in 16 weeks. Which confidence level would you like to plan against? This approach is honest, defensible, and positions you as a professional who manages risk rather than hides it. Most sponsors, when offered the choice explicitly, pick a higher confidence level than they would have demanded implicitly, because the framing changes how they evaluate the trade-off. 26. Sometimes a sponsor insists on a single number. Give them the number, but anchor it to a confidence level and a range. The estimate is 16 weeks at 80% confidence. If you need higher confidence, the estimate extends to 19 weeks. This gives the sponsor the single number they asked for, while preserving your professional obligation to communicate uncertainty. Never deliver a bare number without attached caveats, because the bare number will be used against you later if the project slips. 27. Sometimes leadership pushes back hard on an honest estimate. They want a smaller number because the smaller number fits their business case, the board meeting, or the personal narrative. The professional response is to present the analysis, show the trade-offs, and let them decide. If they accept the risk of the smaller number explicitly, document that decision. If they ask you to simply reduce the estimate without a corresponding reduction in scope or an increase in risk tolerance, politely decline. You can say, I can revise the estimate if we reduce the scope or accept additional risk, but I cannot simply produce a smaller number for the same scope without introducing padding that will not hold up. That sentence, delivered calmly, is one of the most important professional tools in the estimator's toolkit. 28. The only way estimation improves over time is through feedback loops. Capture actual durations and costs at the end of every project, compare them to the original estimates, and feed the results back into your analogous and parametric databases. Treat estimation accuracy as a metric worth tracking. A team that reports its estimation error and works to reduce it improves steadily. A team that never looks back at its estimates repeats the same mistakes indefinitely. When lessons learned never get applied, one of the most critical losses is the historical estimation data that would have prevented the next project's predictable failure. 29. We covered a lot. You now understand why estimation is hard, including the cone of uncertainty, optimism bias, and anchoring, and why structured methods are the only reliable defense. You can apply 6 proven estimation techniques: expert judgment, analogous estimation, parametric estimation, bottom-up estimation, 3-point estimation with the PERT formula, and the Delphi technique. You know when to use each, how to combine them for better accuracy, and how to structure contingency and management reserves so they are transparent and defensible. You can communicate estimates as ranges with confidence levels, handle the pressure conversation professionally, and hold the line against requests to simply reduce the number. And you can feed actuals back into your data to improve estimates over time. Your next step is to take one active estimate on one of your current projects and reformulate it using at least 2 of these techniques this week. 30. To claim your 3 professional development units, log into your PMI dashboard at the Continuing Certification Requirements System, which is abbreviated CCRS. Select Report Professional Development Units. Choose the category labeled Online or Digital Media. Enter the course title exactly as shown on your certificate, which is Project Estimation Techniques and Handling Uncertainty. Enter the date you completed the course. Enter the provider name as Self-Made PM. Enter the Professional Development Unit value of 3, allocated to the Ways of Working area of the Talent Triangle. Retain your certificate of completion in case of an audit. Self-Made PM is not a Project Management Institute authorized training partner, and professional development units on this platform are self-reported. Thank you for spending these 3 hours with me. I will see you in the next course. Thank you for completing this course. If the ideas in this session sparked something for you, the next step is the book. The Project Brain, Evolving Project Managers, is available now on Amazon and goes far beyond what we could cover in this session. It contains the complete system for building, maintaining, and scaling an artificial intelligence-powered project management office, the full janitor protocol with templates, deeper stakeholder simulation patterns, and real-world case studies from practitioners who have saved 10 to 15 hours per week using these methods. You can find more free courses, tools, and articles at selfmadepm.com. Again, thank you for your time, and remember to log your professional development units. I will see you in the next course.